Hey there. The author that I chose was Terry McMillan. I chose her because she's one of my all-time favorite writers, and she's one of the few that I actually read. Said several times throughout this course that I'm not really a reader, and luckily for me, most of her books that she's written have been made into movies, so that's been lucky for me. Um, but this is one of the authors that I actually do take the time out and read. And the way I even got introduced to her was from my mother. She's a reader. She can read a book so fast, and she's basically read all of her novels. And one day, I just saw one of her books, and I picked it up and I read it. And this is way long time ago when I was younger. But after that, I was hooked. But just to give you a little bit of background on Terry, she was actually born in 1951 in Michigan. And she actually started writing books from working in the library. That's when she got interested in that. And when she was 16. After that, she went on to get her bachelor's degree in literature and journalism from Berkeley. So that was in 1986. Soon after that, she started to, write books. She did eventually get married. She was in her late 40s, and I think he was in his early 20s. So that is some real juicy stuff, right? Well, that's the type of books that she actually writes. So that her personal relationship was actually inspiration for one of her books called How Stella Got Her Groove Back. And the love interest in that movie, because it was also a movie, was actually based off of her husband or her fiance at the time when she wrote it. And that's one of the reasons why I like her, is because she takes her personal experiences and she puts them into her books and her movies, and she's hoping that her audience, someone in her audience, could relate to her. And to me, she's very relatable. A lot of her experience are true experiences, even though the characters that are in her book are fiction. The storyline and what they go through are real for a lot of for a lot of us watching. Um, so her first book that she ever wrote was actually called Mama. And that was not my first book that I read of hers, but that was one of the first times people started to notice her. She really didn't start to get a lot of recognition until she wrote a book called Waiting to Exhale. That was actually written in 1992. During that time, she received national recognition for that, and she sold over 3 million copies of that book by the time the book actually came out into a movie in 1995, which I actually went to and stood in line for an hour to watch when I was 16. But this starred Whitney Houston, and it was actually Whitney Houston's second movie that she's ever done. Along with Whitney Houston, there's some other actresses that were in there that were not well known back then, but in a sense, Terry McMillan basically kind of paved the way and made it possible for some of those actresses in her movies to be considered for more important roles in the future, because her movies from her novels were so successful. So they were able to use those breakout roles in her movies to get better jobs as far as being in more important films or more well-known films. So but again, like I said, I'm not really a reader. I do want to show you what the actual book cover looks like. I tried to get this book, but this is what the actual book cover looks like. So if you guys have chance, you can go and check this out at the library. This is a very good book. Like I said before, she's an African American woman, and the movie Waiting to Exhale, the one that I'm holding up here, it does kind of focus on African American women in their 30s, going through everyday struggles with relationships, heartbreak, being lonely, but being successful, strong women, and they can't find anybody that can accept them. And the movie is basically women venting about men and how they just want someone to be able to take care of them, and they are not the ones take care of the men. And although, you know, like here's a copy of the movie. This is with the actual movie, and you can see there's Whitney Houston, Angela Bassett, and again, some of these people were not even well known when this movie came out, but this movie helped them get better jobs. But even though they're all African American women, they're women, and I feel that any woman of any race could relate to this movie and relate to her books because they're real situations that all women go through. So that's why I like her, because yes, she is African American, but she relates to all women of all races. So that's why I love her to death. And again, she's probably the only author that every time she writes something, I will read it. Her latest novel is called Getting Back to Happy. And that's actually the sequel of Wait and Exhale. And you know me, I'm actually hoping for a movie. So I will be in line waiting for that if it ever comes out. But I haven't read that book yet, but I'm sure that it's going to be fantastic. And it's going to be something that I won't be able to put down. So that's it. I just wanted to talk about my favorite author. And that's Terry McMillan. So if you guys have a chance, go get some of her books, or at least watch one of her movies, because they're really good. Thanks.